I'll show you how it's done. Shazam!
Hey everybody, welcome back to Underdeveloped, and here are another movie review. This time we got Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves. This movie is brought to us by director and screenwriter Jonathan M. Goldstein. It is based on the Dungeons & Dragons property, which is owned by Hasbro. We don't have a lot of familiarity with Dungeons & Dragons. I have vague familiarity with Tyrell having even less. I have been informed since watching this movie that this movie does have a lot of references. I caught like 2 or 3, but apparently there's like a whole lot more in this movie. All right, so basically this movie is about our main protagonist, heck, it's the bard and barbarian mostly. They had a job gone wrong long time ago. They just got out of prison, and the bard's daughter has gone missing. Again, this is an oversimplification of the plot, just to get out of the way. But basically, it's just the whole thing where this is the whole thing to get back at the guy who's manipulating his daughter and to win his daughter's favor over. That's basically the long and short of it, with a whole bunch of things in between, just connecting it from adventure to adventure to adventure. Just a whole bunch of there's a whole bunch of side quests that add up to it. That's more or less the plot, really. Like, the plot is more just interconnected things. Just setting up the heist, like, hey, we need this thing, we go get this thing, blah, blah, blah. That's most of what it is. But this, to be honest, this is not the kind of movie going for the plot. I'd argue this is very much a movie where you go in just to have some fun, for fun, unadventure stuff. Some decent characterization, charming actors. At least I think those are some of the strengths of the movie. What about you? What are your thoughts on this movie overall?
I liked it. I think the cast really, I think it's well casted, and it definitely kind of paid homage, I guess, to D&D, because I swear in certain, especially with the magician dude, is like when like the main villain, which is like the Red Witch, which they didn't really get into, like the Red Witch, pretty much is one of the main villains of the story. That he's like these dark occultists, I guess, and they're very powerful magicians. And he was going against Justice Smith's character, who is another magician. And the way they was like doing moves, like, oh, I can't block this move, you know what I mean? Like, and then I do this move, like, like it kind of pays homage to the whole D&D thing. With like, what I mean? At least for I vaguely remember from watching like Big Bang Theory, some shit where it's pretty much you summoning the move, you summoning the decision, almost like an RPG kind of style. Kind of game, and
that's what Dungeons & Dragons started as. It started as like a tabletop RPG, where when you just play on a board and shit, or like write some shit down. I think.
Yeah, so they kind of paid. So that was a pretty cool thing that they added in it. The themes of the movie definitely there. It's explored throughout like most of the film. It's definitely very consistent, and it's about it's between like family, no family. It's kind of typical for like these kind of films, it's like obviously a heart to it, and it's about family, and these was a thief, so he wants, like Chris Pine, he wants more than what he has, and then he realizes that he kind of had it all along, what I mean? The whole plot is essentially, we kind of missed out, was the whole point of it was that he had to retrieve, Chris Pine wanted to retrieve a object that pretty much brings his wife back.
Mm-hmm.
And that was surprised you didn't mention that, but yeah, because that was the whole motivation behind his journey, to help bring him and his, help make things right. See him and his daughter, while David forgot his name already. What the villain, I guess.
Yeah, Hugh Grant.
While Hugh Grant pretty much used the Red Witch and the fucking and the object that he gave him years before to basically become rich and rule a town.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So basically, overall, yeah, I definitely thought it was there. I definitely thought the themes of it was there, and but the whole thing is it pretty much is like like it's kind of like a live action Shrek in that way. You kind of have this ragtag group of people going on an adventure and then learning morals at the end of the day. You know what I mean? About being a better person than they are. and very commonly, like Chris Pine will always get like not side, but like pretty much like it's very reoccurring with his character to be presented in some way with kind of like, hey, the decision to be an asshole and the decision to be a little less selfish, and a lot of times he chose like the little less selfish thing to do. You know what I mean? And I think that's decent enough. That's a way to build it up. But they kind of beat it a little bit. I kind of at least like 4 or 5 times by like the first half of the movie. But other than that, it was a pretty enjoyable. I'll say other than that, it was a pretty enjoyable experience. I'll say for the most part.
Yeah.
It definitely did its job. There was nothing different or spectacular about this at all. No, it's nothing new under the surface. Like even the plot itself, it had a whole revenge plot element to it. Which is to obviously, defeat the Red Witch and defeat their friend who betrayed them. It's like and a lot of movies, especially in that realm of genre, explores that, and I'm like, it's kind of saw already. It'd been cool if it could have just been something different, something unique about it, or just like don't have to go into that to make. It doesn't have the revenge story to kind of keep it going. You could just go off the strength of this. I just want to fix my family, whatever else. Because it is of drama with him and Regé-Jean Page character, because he was part of he was a species that pretty much responsible for killing his wife, Chris Pine's wife. So there's a lot of drama between them. That was pretty interesting as well. Yeah.
Like, this movie explores a lot of things, and I feel like there's a lot of things that just don't have as much time as they should. Like, for example, the Paladin, he's, like, as we just mentioned, like, his scenes are good, but he's, like, there for, like, what, maybe 20, 30 minutes of this whole movie at most? Because he's just there kind of in the middle. Because he's not there in the beginning, and he just leaves before. He doesn't really die or anything, he just leaves. And then his daughter barely has any screen time. Like, they do establish all these themes that we have seen before, but as I said earlier, this really isn't a movie I would recommend to somebody solely because of the plot. Like, it's like a lot of it's like very been done before. It's not particularly unique. Really, what's unique about it is more the details of how they go through certain things, like during the actual events of the movie itself. Like when they're trying to like go board this carriage, and their plan is to like use a teleporter to like bounce off a mirror so that they can go under the carriage as it's moving. And like, okay, stuff like that. That's very unique, and that's big parts of what I like about the movie. That's when the movie really shines in my eyes. When we're seeing all these cool new things, like some of the cool D&D monsters in the maze, just stuff that's more unique to that world that we don't always see in every other fantasy thing. Like, I feel like that's a big part of what makes this adventure just entertaining, as a whole, because there are these unique elements here. They're just not so much plot-wise, they're just more event-wise, if that's... I think that like it's more action-y in terms of how it's unique. Also, it's just nice to see it's always that I see a cool shapeshifter character. I always like that. Like, I've heard... And her introducing herself by turning into an owlbear and just kicking ass, I'm like, that's probably the best character introduction in this movie.
There's literally like a long one-take sequence where she's kind of escaping the Hugh Grant's castle, from the Red Witch, and she's like transformed into these different animals, and it's pretty much just one take, one long shot, to get out, transform into different animals, which is fucking...
That was a great sequence.
Fucking great. Yeah, it was a great fucking sequence. It was like, whoa, this is it. Like, this is fire. Obviously they do that now. Like Aquaman had a sequence like that. It was long one take, huge action. Obviously re-edited. Obviously it's not. They just cut it seamlessly and shit like that and filmed it in certain ways.
It's like a fake one take.
Yeah, but still, pretty.
It's still impressive. It's still nice to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a big. Yeah, and also this movie just has, like, on top of having those cool action set pieces, it just has like a lot of charm to it. It just is funny at points. Like, there aren't a ton of jokes that are like laugh out loud funny. Maybe there are if you're really, really into D&D, and we just went over our heads because they definitely did. But from our perspective, as people who aren't super familiar with this,
they definitely paid homage to it from what I noticed.
Oh, they did. Oh, they did. Like, I know they did. Like, I did catch a handful of references. I do know some people who have played D&D quite a bit, so they kind of informed me on some more things that they caught. Like when they're in the arena, like in the arena segment, like the party that's actually like victorious and they're like moving off through the ranks and actually like interact just barely. They're apparently the ones from the Saturday morning cartoon of D&D from like the 80s or 90s or something. It's like, okay, that's a cool little Easter egg.
Nice.
Yeah, and apparently this movie is just loaded with that for D&D fans. Like the few I noticed was like they made reference to Baldur's Gate, which I know is a video game that's very well known and popular. Took forever to get a third one, apparently. Like 20 years to get a third game.
Another thing, the more interesting villain didn't even really make an appearance because he was dead. But, there's some things that like this movie doesn't really explain a lot. I feel like the movie is like explains things, but it doesn't like overly daunt you with lore details. Because we understand that the Red Wizards, they all are servants of this master. I'm pretty sure he's dead. I'm pretty sure he can't do anything himself. At least I'm assuming that. But I don't know. It's just like a weird little world building thing. I'm sure to the D&D faithful, like this is just old news to them. My daughter is like, okay, that's a little weird. I would like to actually know a little more about that. But they're like, oh no, play the fucking game, make a character, do things. But yeah, overall, I'd say this is a really fun time, regardless whether or not you're into D&D. If you're just looking for a cool comedic action adventure, this is probably the best bet for that specific thing out there. Because look at the competition it really has. Like in terms of comedic action adventures, what's out there? Shazam 2 and Ant-Man 3. This Dungeons & Dragons movie, I'll gladly take over those two. Yeah.
Gladly.
Those two movies set the bar pretty low.
Yeah. Well, this movie is good. It didn't need to be that good to beat those two. Yep. Yeah. Overall, I thoroughly enjoyed my time movie. I'm thinking I'm going to give this an 84.
I'll probably give it like an 80.
Fair enough. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. Really just, I felt like if the emotional core was stronger, that would have pushed it even further, to be honest, but it just wasn't there for me. Not that it was awful. This wasn't that good.
They tried.
Yeah, there was an attempt, and it wasn't awful or even particularly bad. It was just kind of there. Like, it was whatever.
Yeah.
It was fine. It was fine, like Chris Pine.
Sure.
Anyways, I'm rambling. Any final thoughts before we close this out?
No.
Okay. Well, in that case, that's the review here, folks. That's pretty much all we have to say about this movie. Please, if you've seen it, let us know what you thought down in the comments below. Are you a D&D fan? And did you have the encyclopedic knowledge of all this stuff going in and you're just going to nitpick what we say because we kind of deserve for not knowing what we're talking about? Okay, I'm joking. I'm just messing around. But anyways, I'm done rambling. Please hit the like and subscribe button and we'll see you next time for the next video. Hit the notification bell to update of all of our new content, including more movie reviews and reactions and the like. Peace out, y'all.